Hello, everybody. Just to confirm, I'm pretty sure that everybody can hear my voice okay, but just as a confirmation, I'll take a couple of yeses. Oh, perfect. All right, so welcome to your September Python Meetup. Today we're going to have one speaker, Paul. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about security and kind of the mindset and a little bit of the workflow to kind of solve those problems. I'm going to do a little bit of news first, and then I'm sure that afterwards, there was a second plan talk, but what we're going to do is we are going to maybe just kind of bounce around just so that people can introduce themselves, just talk about where you're using Python, where you're here. There's only good answers. And one thing to note before I start the news, we are always looking for speakers, 100%. We might have a couple of speakers in the next few months, but we're always looking for it, and it's a really great way to give back. So please, 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 at some point, just if you're ever thinking about giving a talk, you can reach out to me, and I'll just write it in the chat. It's at DG Morris on the EdmontonPy Slack, which we will talk about as well. Yeah, so a couple of things, EdmontonPy.com, if you want to join the Slack. We do have a Twitter account that we aren't too active on, but I'll try to make it a little bit more active here. If you want to join us on the dev.edmontonslack.com, you can join the conversation at meetup.edmontonpy. And a lot of our former meetups have been on YouTube. Unfortunately, we can't actually record the talk that Paul is going to be giving today, just because it's dealing with sensitive materials. So hopefully that kind of makes you a little bit excited like it does me. But if you want to see old ones, if you really want to hear my horrible voice, yeah, we're on there. So thank you very much as well, Startup, for sharing that. All right. And if you want a link to the slides, I'm just going to do this as well. Sound effects, slides, boom, you guys got them. Okay. All right. So just a huge shout out to Startup Edmonton. They've helped us out for years and years and years for the Python Meetup. And when it's not virtual, they give us a space. And when it is virtual, they give us a space. So just a super huge shout out for the continued support. And also, I don't know if Startup wants to say a few words just about the programming, just to kind of give them the opportunity. I'll just take a 10-second pause just to let you folks kind of speak up if you'd like, or just say no in the chat if you wouldn't want that. Nope, there we go. All right. So yeah, it's an awesome place. Go check it out. Yeah. As well, we're all dealing with COVID stuff. Just some good information so that you folks aren't, I don't know, confused. Alberta.ca/COVID, Canada.ca/COVID-19. Okay. A couple of other readings that we've had in the past that's just kind of talking about reading and research in race and technology. I have talked about these in the past, but if you want to read some of these, the links are there on the chat. So just something to note, especially in this day and age, just as we are a very inclusive community and we want to make everybody feel at home. But if you want to educate yourself a little bit more about how race and technology and some of the research around it, please go take a look at those. They're all good. All right. So jobs locally, there is, if you'd like us to share a job opportunity, one, just message me, DataGet, anybody on the org committee. I will share those details, but let us know if you want us to announce it in our news. This has been the first one in a while that we've had, first meetup in a while. So please let us know. And I'm sure that, yeah, it's just appreciated. A couple of online places, HN Hiring, remotepython.com, and remoteok.io. is a really good way to find some of the find some jobs, and as well in our Dev Edmonton Slack. We actually have a really active opportunities channel. So just join that channel, and it's a great way to find potential jobs. I think that like 2 minutes ago, I was talking to Paul about a potential opportunity. So go take a look at there, and that's going to be a really good one, right? So just a couple of events that are going to be happening around the Python universe. So the Python web edition, that's going to be in November. I'm really happy that I didn't include the dates, but they're both going to be in October, November timeframe. So you still got some time. So the Python universe web edition, that's going to be in October, and PyCon Sweden, they don't really make IKEA. They make a pretty good Python conference. So that's going to be, I think, November 11th to 14th. And I think it's a 2-day conference, even though I did say 3 days. So check out a couple of those events. They are going to be all virtual. So it's a really good opportunity to get to see these conference events up close and personal. And kind of do that. So those are a couple of them. If you want to go take a gander, I know that I will. Okay, just some news regarding the Python world. Django supporting async views in Python 3. Or in Django 3.1. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how to write asynchronous views in Django, go take a look at that. For those of you who are interested in Python and want to learn more, you folks have probably got to the Real Python website. So they've got office hours, and I thought that that was actually something that was really cool to have virtual office hours, because sometimes it's a little bit difficult to kind of have there, kind of like figure it out on your own. Python 3.9 RC1 is available. So if you want to go take a look at that, if you want to take a look at the new features and what's going on, you can go take a look at that link. And just for you folks that are using Python and Django, there are some security updates in Python 3.6, 3.7, and some, for those of you who are more kind of like Django focused, 3.1, 3.0, and 2.2 have had some. So just update it, make sure that you're up to date, so that you're not as vulnerable, so that people like Paul aren't going to get in your website. Just kidding, Paul, but kind of. A few articles that I thought would be interesting for the community, for you folks to kind of take a look at. Say it like it is. Yeah, there you go. So expanding exposure to good code. I know that this is an issue for people kind of trying to master and trying to get into the expertise. So there's a good Reddit thread there, just talking about where can you look, what kind of projects have good code available, so that you can really read what's there and try to kind of decipher it and try to improve your own code, so that you can just read it, go through it, and maybe take some of those ideas that they have implemented there. One of the things that I thought was really neat when I was reading the articles was Boston Dynamic inspired robots with Raspberry Pi. So I'm sure that if you haven't heard of Boston Dynamics, this is a really, really good place, or really cool place that builds these crazy robots that kind of look like animals, and I don't know. But if you want to build your own, you could take a look at that link right over there. I don't know if I'm on the left or right. So I thought that there was this interesting article on high demand for ML tools to boost robot farming. I just thought that that was interesting to share. Another thing I found interesting was an article about how these languages mentioned contribute billions to GDP just because they're all open source and free. For those of you who are interested in dependency injection in Python, I added an article there for those of you who are interested in getting better at testing and how to manage kind of your dependencies and how to kind of like inject them into a class. And the last one was just an article on essentially Redis and how to get a little bit more familiar there with that. And even though this is not a commercial, Sunday Memory Express is going to be having a sale on Raspberry Pi 4 gigs. I would actually like to know how expensive they are because I might dabble myself, but just a heads up. All right. Yeah. All right. One of the Python tips that I want or just to kind of talk about it is talking about random. So OMG, so random. So basically what I'm doing here is we're importing the random library and we're just taking random choices from a list. So random.choice, if you pass in the list, is just going to give you a random choice of the list. If you want to get a random list of 2 elements, you just add the k equal to 2 argument, and you can change it to however many you'd like. And the last kind of point here, if you want to shuffle your array, you could just do random.shuffle and just pass in your list, and it's just going to shuffle it all up for you. Just in case you are using random, it is useful in some applications. So yeah. The next meetup is going to be possibly October 12th. By possibly, I mean I forgot to remove the word possibly. We are looking for presenters. We have one talk currently. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it this evening, which was all about Python and GPU acceleration, how to do it essentially with CUDA and NumPy, which is unfortunate. But if you are looking to give a talk or looking to kind of prospecting, go take a look at or just go message one of Asha, DataGet, or DG Morris, Aaron Young, as well as Abram on the Dev Edmonton Slack, just so that we know, and we'll put you in as soon as we can, which is probably going to be the next month, as normally that's kind of the way it goes. Right. And as well, just a reminder, it's the second Monday of every month. So if you kind of need a reminder like I do. Okay. Today's talks. This is Paul's given title. So a live security vulnerability demo, because I don't think I asked him for a title, but it's going to be done by a bright student who I don't know if you want me to say that you're looking for work, but super sharp guy. So Paul Malcolm. So yes, clap, 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 clap. And I'm going to pass it off to Paul here as we kind of go forward. So I'm just going to wait for him to kind of hop on.
Yo.
Hey, Paul.
What's up?
All right. So I'm going to let Paul speak and give us the talk, give us the goods, and one super thanks. Yes, applause. So applause. I really should get like a clapper thing.
A clapper thing, yeah. Could be fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, sweet. So I'm going to turn my stuff off, Paul, and thank you so much for giving the start.
Yeah. So I have several slides, but not very many. Most of this is going to be a live demo. So who am I? My name is Paul. I am the leader of YegSec CTF. We're kind of an offshoot of the YegSec community. We focus on competing in CTFs, talking about CTFs, and in general, trying to break into things. So our little logo, it's sweet and cool, and you should come check us out. We meet first Tuesday every month. So what to expect in this talk, there'll be some very light Python scripting. I'll be using wfuzz, cool, nmap, metasploit. In this talk, I won't be going over specifics on tools. I'm going to be trying to go over more of thought process of why I did this, what made me think of it, possibly things I tried before, like kind of a step-by-step. Because I think what's more important than teaching tools a lot of the time is teaching how to think about a problem. There's always going to be like a bunch of tools, and I'm sure that somebody might look at this list and be like, oh, I know a tool that does the exact same thing, and that's why I don't really like focusing on them. I want to focus more on how did I get from point A to point B on this problem. So you're also going to see some hacking, some guessing, and probably spelling mistakes on the command line interface. Today, I will be doing a box on Hack the Box. That's going to be the live box that I'm playing with. If you're not on Hack the Box and you're interested in a platform where you can attack live boxes that have like a predetermined challenge on them, then this is a really interesting place to be. Along with that, if you have any certificates that require you to get points from offensive, what's their name now? Offensive security? I'd have to Google it. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But if you have like OSCP or things like that, you can get points on Hack the Box. And you get massive street cred, which is the most important thing. So yeah, like I said before, main topic is going to be thoughts as I go through this. So we're going to jump right into live demo here. So what I have up is I have a website right here. This is one of the boxes. If you travel to it, this is what you get. It looks like a little blog website. One of the first things that I usually do on these boxes is I'll just do a quick nmap. I want to know what ports are open, just in general, what's running on that machine. Now, you can get really fancy with nmap. There's a lot of additional things you can do with it. You can say like, hey, nmap, go to this port or go to this website or this IP, sorry, and look for all the versions of the software, like use scripts to try and sort out what versions of software are running. Then do a search on a database to tell me what vulnerabilities are there. And there's a lot of extensibility with nmap in that way. I don't typically use it that way. Mostly, I just haven't gone really deep on the tool yet, but it's something that if you are interested in doing, you can do a lot of your kind of initial discovery in nmap just all by itself. So there we go. So initially, all we see on this website is it's got an FTP on port 21, and it has port 80 open for HTTP. The important thing to notice about the FTP is that it is closed. The only one that's open is 80. And so that to me kind of leads me down like, I think that the attack surface is going to have something to do with the website. Now, whenever I am looking at an attack surface that is a website, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try some obvious things. And what I mean by obvious things is I mean pages like /admin. Another one would be like /login, things like that, right? You can use a tool like Dirbuster. You can give it a big list. Dirbuster is just an iteration tool. It'll just hit the website over and over and over again with different URLs, and it'll recursively go down into folders and things like that. But sometimes you don't really need to use a tool. You can get lucky and find something interesting on your first try. So we have like a little admin page, right? We can try logging into it. We get nothing. It's not quite as easy as admin here. And so we need a bit more information, but we have something to go off of right now. We have a surface that may be attackable. The next thing that I'm kind of interested in is what actual product am I dealing with, right? What is running here? When I first did this one, I'd never heard about this right here, Bloodit. I'd never seen this before, but by the superpowers of Google, you can Google and find out. Oh my, apparently I'm French, sure. Well, that's not French, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot, I'm in Norway. Give me one hot second on that. Oh, but if I disconnect, it'll crash. Okay, we're just gonna deal with being in Norway. Might make things interesting. So you can find out that this is a little CMS. And now that I know it's a CMS, I kind of have an idea of what this piece of software is that expands out my ability to do more research, which, just like coding, all hacking is a research and then applying the research. So a popular thing to look for is to say, like, hey, does this thing have any CVEs? Now, CVEs are disclosures of vulnerabilities. There's a couple places that keep databases on them. I usually use CVE details, and it'll tell you, it'll give you like a year, the number of vulnerabilities they had in that year. It'll give you a generalized category on what that vulnerability was. Typically, when I'm doing this, I'll just go obviously to like the newest year, because if something from 10 years ago still works, although that happens, it really shouldn't. So I'm gonna go to 2019, and I'm gonna take a little peek here, and I'm gonna see what different types of CVEs are on this piece of software. So in 2019, there was an ability for attackers to bypass brute force protection mechanisms by using forged X forwards. Okay, so that could be interesting, because if it works, we have a login page and we could try and brute force it, right? We got an XSS vulnerability. We got remote code execution. That's always going to be a hot one to open up. Non-privileged users to change the passwords of any account, including the admin. That could be interesting. So we'll open that one up for now. Code execution, authenticated user while uploading a PHP file through logo. Okay. Those are interesting. So first one I opened up here. One of the interesting things that a lot of these places will have, I don't think this one actually has it, but exploit database will actually have link outs to code for people who've already exploited this. We can kind of skip that little piece of research because I already have that piece of code. But this has a little Python module that people have already created, which is just going to clear. I want to get expectation cat. No love. I guess I can open it up in a code editor. Yeah, this has a little Python script, and all it does is it forges the headers on these files to allow you to just keep slamming it and slamming it and slamming it over and over again, which is really cool. By the way, this is my only little bit of Python. So all the people who are really here for Python, this is your bit. Assuming that it opens up properly. You know what? I think it might have not copied over properly is what's going on. I copied this over into a new folder because I didn't want to have any changes I made take effect in this previous folder, but it seems like it didn't copy over. Yeah, okay, we'll just work out of this one. So I already have the host and the script set up. This is the IP for that website. This is the URL to the actual, this will lead to the login. So I went to admin, but admin login also works to get to the same area. It'll link down that way. And so what we're going to need to try and brute force it is we're going to need some piece of information. If we're trying to brute force both username and password, it's not gonna go well. I did try it before I actually found the proper way to get the information I needed. Which is where WFuzz comes in. People often leave artifacts of information in places that they really shouldn't. And one of those places is just the head of the server, right? Like just the root directory of the server. This part of this hack right here actually took me quite a while. I ended up asking people questions, and the clue that somebody gave me was Git. Like, what does a regular Git repository look like? Being a coder, deal with those a lot, and I thought, things that I put in my Git repository might just be like text files and whatnot like that. And so you can use a word list with wfuzz. And I'll type it out here, and then I'll kind of explain how it works a bit. What it does is it makes requests to the website with your word list, and it replaces the word, it replaces a keyword, which is fuzz, in the URL that you give it with the things from your word list. Did I make a spelling mistake at some point? Yeah, I did. There we go. By the way, I didn't mention it at the start, but definitely feel free to ask questions in the chat as I'm going, because I don't really expect that most people are going to understand everything that I'm saying when I talk quickly and kind of just move along. And I have timed this so that we have lots of time for questions. And so actually in that vein, I'm just going to take a pop over here, and I'm going to take a look and see if there's any questions in chat, because I really want to, oh, did it freeze? I still have video. Weird. Are we still looking at the Blender folder? Am I frozen here? Sand presentation for me. Well, let me do this. And what I'm actually going to do is that. Oh, I was good. Well, I restarted it either way, just in case. So I'm looking at chat. Do any of you have a question about the first kind of thought process I went through? Yeah, I'll go a little bit into wfuzz. Yeah. So if you see what I have up there on the screen right now, this is just the command, right, obviously, to use the piece. This is to specify that we're going to be using a word list. If I don't put this here, it doesn't work. I haven't looked into fully what this -c does, but it does not work if it ain't there. This right here is a link to a word list. So what I'm using is something called seclists. This is a GitHub repository. You can find it super easy. They have a ton of word lists there. And what are word lists? So the one I'm using right now is just called common.txt. It's just a short word list of common words that are found inside of web content and directories. But there might be things, well, there is things like usernames, like most common usernames in 2016 is probably like an exact word list, or most common passwords in 2010. And it just has a ton of those word lists. And so I download the GitHub repository onto here, and then I use those word lists for fuzzing, for dir busting, for password cracking, for hash creation. It's just so you have a dummy list of things that make sense in different categories. The one that I'm using right now is in the discovery, the web content, and then it's just called common. And then, like I said before, so what I give it here at the very end is, right here, sorry, I'm pointing at it like you guys can see me. This is just the IP address, and then this is the keyword that will be replaced when we fuzz. This right here is a filtering thing, so it's going to filter anything that's a 404 or a 403, so anything that doesn't work, it'll just filter those results. So I don't have like a huge list of failures. I only want successes. So if we give this a run, you can kind of see how it works. So it's going through all those different fuzzes that it has in this common list. It gets a good result on 0 because 0 just goes to index. There's a licenses page, which is pretty common with software, right? And it'll keep going through here until it's exhausted. I think this list is about, oh yeah, there you go. It's 4,658 words long. And it's actually running much slower when I present than it normally runs. So we might cancel this one because I was doing this for illustration purposes. So I can tell you that this one right here is going to find the admin page. It's going to find a backing folder that holds all of the public content for the website, which is this one right here. So if you were to travel to this one, it'll open up a directory that will have a bunch of like randomly named files or folders, sorry, that hold posts and images and things like that, which is interesting. No more questions, Kit? Feel free just to ask them free ball, and when I pop in, I'll take a look at them. But I can tell you this one isn't going to find the thing that we're after, because we need to do one more thing to find that thing. So I ran this one, and I actually ran a couple other word lists before I had the thought that like what it's running is just this URL /admin, right? But I'm looking for possibly like an actual Word document, right? A very common one is like to-do lists or things like that, right? Like I have them all through my code. I have these little like to-do.texts to keep track of what I'm doing in that Git repository. So if I added a .text and then let it run again, it'll now run, it's going to run all the exact same things, but it's just going to add a .text at the end of them because it'll replace the fuzz again, but just keep the .text ending. And as this is going to take longer than normal, I'm going to let this run. I'm going to tell you what it's going to find. Then we're going to move on, and then you can come back and I can do proof that it found it. But it is going to find a to-do.text. No questions? Cool. So if we pop over back to the website, here's the to-do.text. And so there's some interesting things in this to-do.text. One, they have a to-do to update the CMS. That's interesting because it means, it could mean two things. One, they haven't updated the CMS yet. Two, they're in the process of updating it. And three, even though I said two things, it has already been updated. Knowing that when we get onto the server, we may be able to find old information or partially configured things that are abusable. So that's an interesting piece of information for that reason. Turn off FTP, done, that's cool. Remove old users, done, that's cool. This is also really informative because it lets you know that only, like, there's only going to be active users. There's not going to be any dead accounts on there. And then inform Fergus that the blog needs images pending. Fergus. So there's at least a person named Fergus on this project, but there's a chance that Fergus is also a username, an active username. And the sly-eyed of you will notice that it was already in my script because my other one wasn't working and I had to show you an active one. But you'll notice Fergus right there. So if we're going to try Fergus, we also need some sort of password list to run against this. Now, the interesting thing about this box is that I tried probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours of different password lists, not like all at once, but over time. You know, I spent a couple hours on this, then I'd move on after getting somewhere, right? I'd do a little bit more of my write-up and I move on. I was just having absolutely no luck. Typically on these types of challenges, if your like brute force attempt doesn't work in like 10, 15 minutes, it's never going to work. Because if they're going to pick, like they don't want people slamming their servers, hundreds or thousands of people slamming them. And so they pick something, as long as you got the right list, it's going to be in the first little bit of that list. And so I reached out to some friends and I was asking them, like, the passwords just aren't working. I feel like I'm on the right track with this, but I'm just not getting the results that I expect, right? And that's when they told me that this one box has kind of a unique thing on it they've never seen before. And they told me, hey, check out a tool called Cool, which is a cool tool. That joke's just for Dan. So I'm going to rip open another shell here because that one's still running. Good, it found to do. Now I can cancel this. The proof that it exists and this tool finds it. So I'm just going to kill that for now. And I'm going to clear this all so we have a little bit less of a mess. So Cool. What does Cool do? Cool does a lot of things, but what it does that we care about is that it will scrape a website, it'll take all the words off of it, and then it'll slam those words into a little Word document for you. I don't know the intended use of this tool. I just knew that this was the only clue I got given, just Cool, the tool. And so I ran it. And what I got is, if I know how to use my editor, is this guy right here. So you get this big list, single line of every word that exists on this website. So this is inside of its paragraphs, its headers, everything. And I figured, okay, this is a word list. I have a suspected username, and so I'm going to smash this word list in there and hope it has a password in it. And so if we rock over to the shell, by the way, to use Cool, since I didn't actually show it being used, you literally just Cool and then give it this bad boy, and you give it a file name. There's a tag for like output file, and then it'll give that to you. Otherwise, it'll write it to your IO, I believe. Where was I? Yes, the Python script. Okay, and I'm in the right folder. Cool. So we want to run brute force Python script, which is already using that password list that I just showed you. It's going to slam all those passwords into the server while forging the headers to make it look, or to abuse that CVE and make it not realize that the same computer is slamming it over and over and over again with multiple attempts. And then it's going to print out each time that it tries, and then it'll print out a little success message when it or if it has a successful find on the password. So let's give it a little run. Oh, Python 3. I can do this. Or I can't. So I'm making a simple mistake here, but I'm blanking on it. So smash me. Oh, you're right. Thank you. Yeah, that'd be a borked folder. You even used the proper terminology, which, proper terminology is super important. Yeah, boy, good job. Thanks for the save. So it'll pop through these and it'll try and sort out what the password is. So this is going to run for a little bit. So let's do a little check-in on you guys. if nobody has any questions, then I'm going to kind of make up some things to talk about during this section. I'm going to do a little recap here. So what have we gone over? We said, hey, what is this thing? It's a CMS. What appears to be the attackable surface? So far as I can tell, the attackable surface is a CMS. Does WFuzz mutate strings for you, or do you do any heuristic search for strings? So WFuzz has a bunch of things where it can take your strings and manipulate them in a bunch of different ways. It can also do like multiple searches at the same time. I'm just going to get rid of this so you guys aren't seeing me a bunch of times. It can also do a bunch of searches all at the same time. And you can give it one word list and you can say like modify it in this way, but do like one search here, then modify it, then do another search, then modify it, and do another search. I've never used it like that, but I have seen it used like that. A lot of these tools have really advanced ways to be used. And I'm sure it's extremely useful. I just haven't ever had to use them that way yet. So we got a success here. So this confirms now. So like Fergus is a live user. We know that 100%. And here's his password. Now, I think this password being found this way is ridiculous. Right? Like this is pulled right from the website. If we go there and we search, if we have 5 Roland, was it row? It's just like in here, right? Which I don't know. It seems kind of silly to me, but the thing is that this is considered to be an easy box. It's kind of like an intro, and so I think what is going on here is they didn't want people to have like sick password lists. They wanted people to just be able to just work right from here, and it would work out fine. I don't think that this would be something that you would ever really actually find, but nonetheless, it gives a reason to show a cool tool. I'm loving that so much. I'm gonna keep doing it forever. So back over here. So we got Roland Deshane. We got a password. We can log in. We can make sure it works, because double checking is the core of being a good worker. And we can log in, which is cool. An important thing to check here. So when we were looking at those CVEs, one of these said, hey, remote code execution via uploading images. And so if we wanted to use this one, we need a way to upload an image. So can this user account upload images? Let's take a little look. That. So we can give a cool little title here. We can give that, and look at that. We have the option to upload images. So we should be meeting the requirements for this as long as the version of this CMS is this or lower. Now, if this last one worked, which required this version, this one's going to work. Or at least it should work, right? You could always have some SA or somebody out there who made like a little like janky patch to stop this from working anymore while they were waiting for like a real patch to come out. But within reason, this exploit should work. And the really sick thing is that we have a Metasploit module for this exploit, which simplifies things a lot when you just want to be a script kiddie. And my kitty is attacking my leg. Give me 1 second. There you go, cat cam. Yes, I'll feed you in a bit. So let's take a look at Metasploit. Console. So that's the command in Kali to open up the MSF console, which is the Metasploit console. I know there's a GUI version. I never use it. And we'll just wait a sec because apparently streaming takes a lot of CPU. Is Cool an uncommon tool to use for CTFs? I've never used Cool in my entire life. I didn't know it existed. And somebody else told me, hey, here's a tool that'll do what you need for only that box. And so I don't think it's a very common tool just in general, but it is a cool tool. You can get like a tattoo or something, like, honestly. Oh, that's interesting. Cali die. So I don't know how many of you work in VMs on the regular, but they do like to just kill themselves sometimes. But that's all right, because we're just going to power that boy down. Yeah, it's VirtualBox. I know I should use like, what is it, like Hyper-V or something like that, but sometimes that's just how life be. Luckily, as I am the only speaker today, and they needed me to waste as much time as possible, this is how you do it. You just let your software crash, right? Yeah, but I understand that webcams can take up a lot of CPU, but I do have a Ryzen 7 and 16 gigs of RAM and a 1660. It should be completely fine. Don't hack me. You guys probably know my password right now. No hack the Kali install. Come on, realize you're big. Oop. You can do it. It like hard broke, which is hot. Woohoo! Control screens, resize. Give me that 1080p. Why you no love? That should function. Any you resize to that? You want to resize to anything? Control plus F. Is that the sick hotkey I need? Is that just like can fit? Huh, I've never had this happen before. But that's like why you do presentations, is so that right control plus F, of course. Yes. Callie, you be doing me dirty. Host F, host L, adjust window size. This should function. Let's do this one more time. Another presentation. I'm just gonna like, yeah, just keep it like this, and usually it auto scales for me. This is fun though, right? Like this is what happens when you try and hack. Your tools all crash, and you got like 2 hours a day to work on something. Your tools crash, and then you read a bunch of documentation, and it tells you to do something, and you try it, it doesn't work, and then you just spend all your time hacking your own tools, and then it's time to eat and it's time to go to bed, and that's just the way life be. But it's okay, because now it magically works, and I'm not going to question it, because you can't question everything in life. Oh my. I'm just misspelling it, eh? Console. We're back on. Everyone who does, yeah. So this will start up the Metasploit framework. If you've never used the Metasploit framework, it's kind of confusing at times, and there's all these cheat sheets and all these commands, and it's all command line, and this is some like old school shit where, I suppose I shouldn't curse on the presentation, but it's where like you're expected to just figure your own stuff out. It's really fun. I love it. One of the things you can do is you can search, and I want to search for the CMS, and oh, very nice. It has an exploit. Now, what is important about this exploit is that it is the upload image exploit, which I want to be over here. Don't worry about it, Firefox. Don't sweat it, little buddy. Why are you broken? Stop that. Okay, you go away. There we go. If we take a little look in on this exploit, we will see that that is the exploit we're looking for. Another way that you can search it, wrong one. I want this one. And so this is the upload image exploit. But another way that you can search in here is by the CVE. And so 16113, just gonna see if I can get that sweet copy off. So if I were to search, paste that bad boy, you get the same thing. So you can search by CVE, you can search by like keyword, you can search a lot of different ways in here. And so if I want to use this exploit, I can say use, and I can just say 0. If you hadn't just searched it, if it didn't have like the context of a search, you'd have to type where the exploit was, which is down here, right? It's an exploit, Linux, HTTP, etc., etc., etc. Because it has the context of just being searched, I can just say use 0, and now we're in that exploit. So, was it list options? Show options. So you can show all the options for an exploit. So in this one right here, these are all the options that can be changed. So we have a blooded pass, a blooded user, proxies, remote host, remote port, SSL, hello kitty, you want to be fed, goodbye kitty. You got a target URI, you got virtual host, and you got what is required to be set. So it has to have a password, it has to have a user, it doesn't need a proxy, it has to have a remote host, it has to have a remote port, and it has to have a target URI. Now you'll notice that some of these already have settings in them. And so these are the default settings. You don't have to change them unless you do, if you get what I mean by that. And so all we really need is the password, the user, and the remote host address. So if we go into it, we can say, hey, I want to set this parameter. It has the context of you being in this right now. So we're setting that password, and that's going to be, oh yeah, I lost that, so I'll have to open it up one sec. Yeah, hey there, Roland. Probably because I'm running code instead of like gedit and it crashed because it hates me. I'll just close it. So that is the pass. Then we're going to set the user to Fergus. We got that boy set, and then we're going to set our host to the host. Now, say you're like going through this and you did some of this and then you had to run away because the pot of tea was boiling that you forgot you put on. It happens all the time. I understand. You can always just say like, hey, what options have I set already? Now you can see like, okay, cool. Those are the things that have been set. Now, so sometimes an option that you'll see is L hosts. or lhost. And what that is that's a local host, and that is you because it's trying to reverse back to you. Some of them make you set it yourself. Some of them will just figure out what your current IP is. And they'll just set it up all for you. This is one of those ones. So we have all that information set. Does anybody want to take a guess at what's going to happen when we run it? That's the answer right there. It's gonna crash. 90% of the time it is gonna crash, like honestly. Um, let's run it. So if you just type exploit, it'll run. I think you can also type run and it'll run. There's a lot of like multi commands in here where like somebody added ones that already existed under a different name. So what's it doing? So it's going to go to that website, it's going to log in. It's then going to upload a reverse PHP, like a reverse shell PHP script, and it's going to upload an htaccess file. It is then going to move those files into a different folder. Oh, hot, cool, okay. This happens all the time on Hack the Box, and I'm going to come to this in a second. It's going to move those files into a different folder. The PHP is going to get executed because the htaccess that gets uploaded tells it that like PHP files in that server should be executed. Like it'll try and access it, which will cause it to be executed, but it's okay because the htaccess tells it that it's okay. You'll get your reverse shell, and then the script will actually clean itself all up. So it'll get rid of all the stuff that was there, meaning that it's all nice and clean, and you're just running in memory at that point. Like your reverse shell script is just running in memory. So come around Hack the Box, and you're like so sure that what you're doing is right, and it's just not working. What you have to do is reset the box. For some reason, people are just spicy. It's probably because it's a bunch of hackers, and they get on and they intentionally make it so that certain exploits won't work. I don't know if it's because they're like, script kiddies hate them, or if it's just because, they're rude. But you'll often, if you're on the service, you'll often have to restart the box to get something to function properly. So it's really cool that it happened. I am going to stop sharing my screen just for a sec because I don't want to give away creds or let you know that my password's like a bazillion characters. And I'm going to log in and I'm going to reset that box so that the exploit will work again. Close that. Machines. Bear with me. Reset this bad boy. Okay. So we'll give that guy a sec. He should be restarting now. I'll start sharing my screen again. Well, okay. So we still have our exploit. It's still here with everything loaded into it. Just because it failed doesn't mean you like lose everything and have to start all over again. So we'll give it a minute, check the chat, crash +1. We should keep a little counter. That'd be kind of fun, eh? Like seasonal not works for demos. Should be like a little bottom right-hand corner, just a little, like a bug. That'd be hot, I like it. And I'm gonna give it a go again. Hopefully it's restarted by now. Obviously, like, so the service that I'm on is a free service, and so it's a bunch of, like containered machines. And so you don't receive like massive priority. If you pay for it, I think it's 15 Canadian a month. And it will, connection timed out. Reverse TCP handle aborted due to failure, unknown connection timed out. Well, I can visit it just fine. Let's take a look. If you pay for it, then you get nicer servers apparently, but I've also been told by a bunch of people that you kind of get the same stuff on there. So it doesn't look like it's actually started back up again. We shall give it a second, or like 60. We can talk more about the exploit itself, which I think I have the code for. So let me take a look. A CD over here, here, on a cat. Is this one? Yeah, this is a version of it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to steal all this. Because for some reason starting VS Code on the VMs killing things. Folder, anywhere. Wait, there. Oh, cool. I do have the system link still working. So this guy right here, this is a Python version of the exploit. I can share it with you guys at the end of this, but it's just, like I said, it uploads the two files, it gets you a reverse shell access, and then I don't know if this one cleans itself up, but the Metasploit one definitely does clean itself up. Yeah, it's a pretty cool exploit. You could definitely do this manually too if you wanted with something like Burp Suite, where you send the requests up and then catch things in between and change stuff and whatnot. It's just not an area that I spend a lot of time in. The thing I'm worried about is I'm worried that maybe, well, they're a European server, so the Norway server should work fine. Let's try something that's a little less heavy. Normally it doesn't take that long to restart them, so I'm kind of surprised that it hasn't restarted yet. Although I suppose often when they're restarting, I get pissed off, walk away, make a cup of tea. Unless their server actually went down. Should be fun. My directory was borked. So what happened there is I copied a directory in Linux recursively and made a new directory, but cheeky Linux, I shouldn't say cheeky Linux, me not realizing it copied the names of all the files, but not the contents. I don't know why. I'd have to do a quick Google on it, like why it did that. But yeah, that directory's borked because it's just file names, not actually the contents of those files. Just I don't know, I've never seen that before. I probably made some silly thing where I didn't add a command properly or something. But yeah, that's what we were talking about, that directory being borked. It doesn't like us. I'm going to take a look at it one more time here, so I'm just going to drop my screen one more time. Sorry, guys. when you're working through a VPN, like you need to connect to said VPN. And so when my Kali crashed, I didn't connect back to the VPN to access the servers. So hot tip, if you're on your if you need to be on a VPN to do your work, you need to be on a VPN to do your work. It doesn't work without it.
There you go. Okay, I'm gonna let you to it, Paul, and we'll wrap it up.
Oh yeah.
Continue.
There you go. Now we're back again. Oh my gosh. So look at that. The sweetness of things working when you don't act like a mongoloid. So like I said previously, so it's uploading the PHP script as an image because the CMS will filter things that are not like a .png or a .jpeg, etc. Then it uploads the htaccess file, and then it executes that PNG by trying to access it. And then normally it will manually or it will automatically clean up the htaccess file. Sometimes this will fail. I don't know necessarily why it fails, but just sometimes it will fail. And then you'll get a like exploit completed. Normally you'll get like a session, yes, we're good. Sometimes you get a session failed. This may just be because I started this exploit when I had a different IP, so I may just have to restart the actual MSF console here to get like the new localhost IP because it likely grabbed that localhost IP while I was on a different IP. But we'll just power those options back in and then we should have a success. So we're gonna search. Do I still have this saved? Nope. Let's kill that. Forgot I had that on there. Metasploit can be pretty hit and miss at times. So we want to set audit user Fergus. Oh. There we go. Set audit past Roland Deshane right here. My God, it didn't start doing that entire script again. And our host 10, 10, 10, 191. Cool. There we go. That's much better. So that's definitely what it was. It when it started up, it had looked at what my current localhost IP was. Then when I connected to the VPN after doing that, I had a different localhost IP. And so when it tried to send the reverse back to me, it just didn't function, right? And so then the script failed at that point. But if we do like a sweet little ls, we'll see that we are in the temps and thumbnails area. When you have an interpreter session, you can just type shell, and now you can communicate as if you were on the machine. So we want to know who we are. So we're www.data, which is common. This is the user that runs CMSs very often. It runs like Nginx. Well, Nginx sometimes makes its own user, but it could be running Nginx. It runs Apache, things like that, right? And so the first thing we really want to do here is we want to elevate our current user. We want to be like a real user, right? So we need to find some info on a real user. So I'm going to, okay, so databases. That could be interesting, right? Like a database could save a password. So let's take a peek in there. So we have a user's PHP. I'm just going to cat users.php. And in here, we have Fergus. Okay. So this is Fergus from the CMS previously. We have an admin up here, but we're not at the moment so interested in the CMS users. Fergus might be a user on here, but I'm going to keep kind of peeking around here. Let's just clear. Oh yeah, that's not set in here. That's always hot. So I'm going to leave this folder. So like I'm on the machine, what am I doing? I'm just looking. I'm just looking for interesting things. So this is actually where the to-do.txt is, which is interesting. There's also a readme.markdown. Could be interesting, right? Let's go up again. Oh, so there's the other version of Bloodit. So that's interesting. So they are partway through migrating to a new version. So there might be no auto completion killing me. There might be a interesting thing in here. If nothing else, there'll be that database folder again. Databases. Ooh, I'm on fire. Let's cat this users.php. So there's a different admin here, which is interesting because this admin has like a real name. It's not just like admin. Role is user and whatnot. All right. Well, something we can do is we can take the password hash and we can go over here, clear this out. We can say, I want to know what type of password hash I'm dealing with. So all this tool does, give it a password hash, it tells you what you're dealing with. So in this case, we're probably dealing with a SHA-1 or a double SHA-1. It's possible that these other things are also a possibility, but SHA-1 and double SHA-1 are, at least in my limited experience, pretty common. And the thing about SHA-1 is that it can be cracked. So you could run something like hashcat and smash hashes into it until you cracked it yourself. But there is a lot of websites that have the entire SHA-1 space just on their server, and they can do just a lookup for your hash. So as long as your hash is like a common password, it'll just find it. I'm not going to show that right now because it can take a little bit of time, but I can tell you when you crack this hash right here, if you put the time into it, what you get is you get password 120. A lot of those sites, you might get it instantly. Some of them you have to pay for. If you have a good password list, just use hashcat. And what you do is you'll put in the password list, you'll tell hashcat to hash it, and then try it against your hash, and it'll just take care of it for you. But you're going to have to live with me knowing this one since it is already 8 o'clock. And so what we can try is we can say like, hey, I want to switch users to Hugo. Or was it capital? Oh no, I'm on my machine. Durher. Yeah, switch users to Hugo. There's no Hugo on my machine, unfortunately. Type in that password. And then, oh, it's capital P. Hugo. Yeah. Or do I have to check my notes? Who am I? Hey, I'm Hugo. So, as a part of these challenges, the things that you're looking for is the user flag, and you're looking for the root flag. And so the user flag is always a little user.txt in a user's account. And so we got that sweet little users.txt right there, which I'm not going to cat out because that would be literally giving you the flag. But the next step is, actually, I'm going to quickly check the questions on this since I just slammed through a bunch of stuff. What do you do? What would? Oh, okay, yeah. What is the target? This is the target machine, correct? Yeah, yeah. I was in the wrong. I was on my console. Andrew Stedman, why? Could you expand that question a bit, and I'll look at you in a sec. So next step here, what we want to do is we want to get root. That's the next challenge on these types of boxes. And a common place to start is to check what privileges your current user has, right? Like now that we have a real user account, we can take a look at that. Give me one sec. Yeah. So one thing is if we have Python, exist. Oh, it's probably not coming back to me. No. Sure. I'll go back in. Sometimes in hacking, you just lose your connection. All right, that's fine. We can redo it. Okay, bounce out of that. Exploit. This is why you take notes. As I'm going, I'm always adding to a write-up. Every step that I do, I like pop over. I add what I did, what I was thinking, any information I think that might be important. And then I just keep doing that. And so I'll constantly have stuff I'm deleting out of there because it turns out that it was just garbage. And that's just like part of it, right? I'm just redoing my connection. And I'm going to probably have a different IP now. So we got to kill out of this console. So what I was trying to do there next was you can get a better shell on a machine by invoking bin bash with Python if a user has access to Python. So you can kind of abuse the REPL. Zero set it user Fergus set let it pass. Have I copied anything since then? Boop. Set our host 10 10 10 191 exploit. It really is just part of the game that you have to redo your stuff a lot of the time. But you know, it's fun because you get better at it every time you have to redo it. I don't quite have the session yet. Just have to wait a sec. I'll check that question. I was replies asking if you were connected to. Oh, so you're saying yes, exit. Yeah, exit the method. Okay, cool. So we can switch users to Hugo. Oh yeah, I need shell first. Shell. Thank you. Switch users, Hugo. Password 120. So who am I? I'm Hugo. So I want to try and see if this will work. C import D spawn in dash doop doop doop. Nice. Okay. So what's that little trick doing? So we're using Python to open up a shell in bin bash instead of working in the current shell that we had. Implications, probably a lot. Implication for me, autocorrect for my typing. The ability to use things that I couldn't use before type thing. So I want to go back to his home, and then we can move on to the next step. Okay, so something we can do is we can, I believe this machine we can look at, no, what is it? So let me scroll down to my notes here. Ah, yes, I was talking about sudo, the thing that I wanted to do before I got sidetracked. It's a good idea to figure out if your current account can do sudo. It will ask for your password, give that guy in, and this account can use, or all people can do sudo, or user who go may run sudo without root in bin bash. Now, this right here, if you're on a certain version of Linux, a certain version of sudo, can be abused to get root. I believe there's a CVE for it. I think you can do version on sudo. Yeah, cool. So we have a sudo version of this. We grab that. We pop over, yeah, etc password, yeah. Paste that in there. Actually, I want to do this on this over here, so I'm right here already. CVE for sudo version this. Serious flaw that lurked in here. That sounds good. That's the right version. So you can take a read through here. So this one's looking for all. Let's take a look here. Sudo vulnerability. No, I want CVE sudo. I want this boy. And then we want to search for our version, which is 1825. Copy that. Go back here. Do that. Oh, it's not up on here. Might be a, actually, let's do a little bit. Yeah, okay. So before 1.5, in this list here, there's a CVE that allows you to use bad math to get sudo. I'd like to find it for you, but I don't want to take too much longer. So I'm gonna do a little bit of magic, and you're gonna have to believe me. So if we were to try and run a command with sudo, and we -u lets you select the user, and so I'm going to say I want to run sudo with user -1, and then we're going to give it a little bin bash. It will actually roll over the int and just freak out and give you root. And it just works. It's funny. So we're now root. And yeah, that's how you get root on this box. Magic is all good. So I got a little bit off of my explaining my thought process there right at the end. Why did I check sudo privileges? I always check sudo privileges. When I have a user, it's just one of the first things I'm going to do. I'm going to be like, hey, can this thing sudo? When I saw that it could sudo, I actually had, like, I hadn't seen that type of sudo before, where it said all and then not root, and so I just did a quick Google on it, and I went down a rabbit hole that was finding that exploit. Just hitting CVE details, searching that string, and then leading me down that road, right? And then you just smash the command in and it works, or it doesn't work, and you keep on doing research, right? What I wanted to really get through here today is that the majority of hacking is the same thing that the majority of programming is, and that is, I have a problem and I'm going to research how to solve it. They're not very different, right? Like, a good programmer is somebody who does a bunch of research, hours of reading, minutes of coding, 1,000 lines of reading, 2 lines of code, those sorts of things that you kind of hear. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with hacking. You need to just find something to research, right? When you're looking at something, you're just like, what do I see? What can I look into to move forward? And it's a common skill among a lot of different professions, because it's a skill that people will pay you for, regardless of kind of what you're doing, right? No matter what job you're at, if you're in a professional environment, you're essentially paid to be a good researcher. And I hope that I gave you kind of an insight into how I thought about some of these problems on this box. Questions, comments? Yeah, sorry about all the technical glitches, but that's just how it goes when you do the entire thing as a live demo. It all worked in the end, though, which is good. If you want to hit me up, if you have questions for me at another time, or you just want to mingle, I'm on the Slack. I'm on the YegSec Slack. I'm on the Dev Edmonton Slack. I'm on the Startup Slack. And like I said, we run a meetup first Tuesday of every month, YegSec CTF, and then what is it, like third Thursday or something for YegSec?
I think it might be the third Wednesday, if I read correctly, but I might be wrong. I might be
maybe,
wrong.
yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted you to plug
I just show
up. The Capture the Flag meetup, because I know that that's been kind of like a really interesting new growth meetup, just to kind of learn kind of more of these skills and kind of more of the practical kind of implementation details of kind of going through and penetrating boxes. So, I mean, this is awesome. This is a first step into security in Python. So at least in the 4 years that I've been here. So huge. I think that there was one other security talk, but huge props, Paul.
Hopefully it was followable.
Yeah, it definitely was. I thought it was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. I'm going to leave it up for if anybody has any questions. You can reach Paul at
all the different Slacks. I mean, that's basically the only way to reach me. I don't have like Twitter or like Facebook or anything like that. But if you're not on the Slacks, you probably want to be anyways. I mean, who here isn't on one of the Slacks?
Absolutely. So as well,
at Malik has on all those Slacks.
And I will put that in the chat. What date is the next meetup for you?
Let me take a look. I don't know what the first Tuesday is next
October
month.
13th. So fantastic, I think, if I'm correct.
I have October. Oh yeah, it's October 6th.
October 6th. Oh yeah.
6th. Yeah.
That's the
next
second
meetup.
Monday, you said? Second Tuesday, the first?
No, it's always the
Okay,
first
great.
Tuesday.
All right. So
Yeah.
if you want to learn more, if you really like this talk today, go take a look at the YegSec CTF. Join the YegSec channel. I'm sure Paul's going to be joining on there. That's going to be at on October 6th around 6:30 ish. I'm sure more details.
Yeah, we say be there at 6:30. We usually start at 6:45. But if you show up later than 6:45, you're going to be lost.
Okay, great. And our next meetup is going to be October 12th, which is going to take a little bit of a different flavor. There's going to be a talk on GPUs and how you can implement and use it with Python. And as well, we are going to be having another talk, which might be insert yourself. And if you will the Python code be posted? Please ask Paul on that. So at Paul, we'll see there. I will see if we can get it. I know that it is sensitive material, Terrence. So unfortunately, I'm not sure on that. But again, we are always looking for speakers. So please, if you like this meetup and you enjoyed it, please let me know, and we'll do that. Sorry, Paul?
Hey, Terrence, for the Python code, all of it's actually completely easy. Like the Python stuff's really easy to find online. If you were to, one of them's from Exploit Database, and I can find the link and share it in the Python channel. And the other one is just ripped off GitHub, because whenever you have a CVE, there's going to be just a lot of people who have code for it, right? The thing I can't share is like the steps for this exploit, but I can share code and stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. And with that, folks, thank you so much for coming. And we'll see you next month. Stay safe and see you soon.